Hi everyone, I'm Deborah O'Connell. For those of you who don't know me, I've been the lead facilitator in Homeward Bound since about 2017. I was a participant in HB1 and since then joined the faculty in a lead facilitator role to help ease the pathway for all of you as participants, working with Kate McMaster and Fern Wixon. As things change and the organisation grows and develops, we'll be handing on the baton to a professional paid role as a lead facilitator, and I can't wait to have some time freed up to join the Intercohort network that has been set up by Roshni and Carly. I'm really thrilled to see this network evolve in this way, and in the meantime, Rosh and Carly have asked me to do a short video, just maybe providing a few little background tips on facilitating your own dialogues in the way that we hope will happen in this intercohort network. So I work as a scientist, and a large part of my job is facilitation, because when you're working in areas of change and transformational change, I suppose, dealing with hard ideas at a systems level, it means working with people from all walks of life in all countries and cultures to try and actually have some quite hard conversations and create that safe psychological space for those conversations, as well as a clear sense of purpose for gathering and a clear set of rules around or terms of engagement about how we operate together, why we're there and what we hope to achieve. I couldn't possibly hope to really translate all of that in a single short video, but hopefully can give you a few small tips. I'm going to focus on three things. The first thing is about gathering intentionally for a common purpose, and usually a higher sort of specific purpose. We imagine that in the groups that you're in, providing leadership support to each other and a place to provide peer conversations and development and growth under that broad kind of purpose of Homeward Bound to support each other to make the planet a better place is the main purpose of what we're doing. But you might like to refine your purpose a little bit more as you go on and confirm that that's why you are wishing to gather. Really what you want to be able to do in your groups is create a sense of inclusiveness and belonging. It's quite tricky in these times when we're spending so much time on Zoom. I find it much harder to do on Zoom than in person, but the reality is that's what we have at the moment, and actually it has been more successful than I had imagined. And I think that in HB5 and HB6, putting the time aside, creating that space for generative conversations where we balance up that sense of purpose and trying to achieve something specific with allowing ourselves to stand back and the conversation to come forth in a generative way, maybe allowing for some meandering and going down where the conversation leads sometimes. There's a good balance to be held then, and only you can really work out as a small group what that balance is and how you might like to best achieve it. But creating that sense of belonging, and Soph talked to you in her piece about doing that in a way that creates a psychologically safe place for people to be vulnerable, to be themselves, to be able to challenge and to be able to create together is really important. I think it's really a good idea to maybe, many of the cohorts, not HB1 and HB2 so much, but from HB3 onwards, we've been through a very intentional process of setting up some group norms, and you might like to check in on those, modify those. We've got the process set up for anyone who wants to use a similar process or create your own. And think about the way that you'd like to run your group. Would you like to have specific roles? Because one person really loves doing calendar management and somebody else might like some other role. But using it as a place where maybe you rotate roles across time so that the burden of organisation doesn't fall onto one person. Maybe giving each other different roles within each conversation, learning to do that deep listening, learning to create lots of different ways for people to contribute, which may include stepping forward verbally into a conversation, or may include drawing or writing. We often use Miro boards and other ways of contributing to support the work that we do when you're dealing with lots of different learning styles. You may choose to come up with a set of questions like we did in HP5, or continuing that in HP6, a set of really open questions that you revisit again and again over time and find that you dig deeper every time. So two of the questions there, for example, might be how is my leadership evolving, and how does it change how I turn up in a group, show up in a group, or interact in a group. They're really open questions which really generate conversation, and you may like to start with those and create some of your own. You may like different questions each time, or you may like to stick with the same questions and see how over time you start to really answer those questions quite differently. But learning to listen, learning to read the room, learning to support each other and meet each other's needs, learning also maybe when somebody needs to go outside of what the group can offer, maybe for some professional help if they need it with psychological support, maybe something that you feel that you need to discuss in the group, you know, what the boundaries are around what you can or can't effectively do within a group. So I can't possibly give you all of the tips on facilitation, but I'm going to point you to some of my favourite resources. I've got loads, but these are some of my favourite ones, and hopefully many of you will have been exposed to these during the course, at least during HP5 and HP6. The first is a book called The Art of Gathering and Why It Matters, How We Meet and Why It Matters. This is a really important book, and not just for professional gatherings, but for all sorts of gatherings in your life. And I really strongly recommend having a look at this book. The next one, you'd think I would have learnt by now to turn my phone off. Sorry, I don't want to start the talk again, so hopefully that's not too much of an interruption. The second one is The Culture Map. It's a really, really good book, and we have covered some of this material, but it's about understanding how different cultures have different norms. And so, yeah, just learning how to work within and across those different kinds of cultures, not just ethnic or geographic cultures, but even cultures within a particular workplace or whatever. Knowing how to recognize those different cultures and navigate them is really important. The third one may not appeal to everyone, but I find it a really, really important book. It's called How to Be an Anti-Racist. And I think this is a book that everybody should be familiar with, the material in here. I think it will really help us again, not just in our conversations with each other, but also in our daily lives. And the last one is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. She has a whole series of books, but this one's got a compilation of some of the best tips about how to lead bravely and with your whole heart. So in these groups, you're all leaders. You'll be working across cohorts and taking yourselves on whichever journey that you wish to go on. So I can't wait to see what comes out of it, and I wish you all the very best and hope to see you soon. Thanks.